back to my channel. I hope that you're doing well. Welcome to another video and welcome back to another cozy wrap-up. We are doing this in a different location than usual. I am currently sitting on my blow-up bed in the middle of my book room because I put it out yesterday and then I was too lazy to break it down. So we're filming in a very precarious situation. You might be moving around a little bit more than usual in this video, but I hope that you will enjoy it nonetheless. I am in my cozy shirt that makes me look very frumpy, but that's okay because that's the whole point of this video. I'm laying with a blanket. It's amazing. Like, I'm having the best time right now. And unfortunately, I don't have a beverage other than water, so that's gonna be my cozy drink for today's video. But I hope that you will grab a hot chocolate or a coffee if you're a late night coffee drinker, or maybe you're watching this in the morning, an early morning, whatever. Get a beverage. Maybe it's hot, maybe it's cold. Sit down with me while I talk about my December reads. Let me first say, if you haven't watched any of my videos leading up to this in the new year, Happy New Year. I hope you had a wonderful and safe holiday. I hope you had a great end to your 2021 year. I hope that you were able to read everything that you wanted to and that you just had a fantastic year. So today I'm going to talk about all of the books that I was able to read in the month of December, my stats, my favorite book and favorite quote of the month, and then we will end this video out and end 2021 out with a bang. I have one more video wrapping up my 2021 everything, and then we'll be moving on to a brand new year with brand new books and opportunities. I'm not going to move, so if the stats pictures are a little bit small, bear with me, but if I move, then all of this pillow support is going to be ruined and I just don't have the energy for that. So here are my stats. In the month of December, I was able to read 23 books, which is fantastic. Not my best reading month, but definitely not a bad reading month at all. In those 23 books, I read a total of 6,797 pages, which averages out to about 219 pages a day and an average book size of about 308 pages. I listened to 196 audiobook hours. I read 16 mixed media books, 4 audiobooks, and 3 ebooks. As for my star ratings, I had 8 5 stars, 9 4 stars, 4 3 stars, and 2 1-star books, which put my average at a 4.18. I read a whopping 14 romances this month, 5 fantasy books, 1 mystery book, 1 sci-fi, 1 magical realism, and 1 thriller. As for the age ranges, I read 16 adult books, 6 young adult books, and 1 middle grade. I read 8 books with mental health rep, 6 books with illness rep, and 9 of the books that I read this month had no representation at all. Unfortunately, I only read 1 book this month that was written by a POC author, which means that 22 of my books were not written by a POC author. And 8 of the books that I read this month had a POC character, which means that 14 did not. As for my LGBTQI+ breakdown, I read 5 books where the main character was part of the community, 6 books where I was present in a side character, which means that 12 of the books that I read this month did not have any LGBTQI+ representation. For that rep breakdown, I read 7 books with gay rep, 2 books with bisexual rep, 1 book with aromantic rep, and 1 book with asexual rep. I read 19 books this month written by women, 3 books written by men, and 1 book written by multiple authors. 16 books that I read this month were part of a series, which means that 7 of them were standalones, and I was able to finish 3 series this month. 21 of the books that I read this month I read for the first time, and 2 of them were rereads. 20 of the books I owned and bought myself, 2 of them I borrowed, and 1 was gifted to me. Now for my publication years, I read 4 books published in 2021, 5 books published in 2020, 3 books published in 2019, 3 books published in 2018, 3 books published in 2017, 1 book published in 2016, 2 books published in 2015, 1 book published in 2008, and 1 book published in 2007. And lastly, for my colors, I read 10 black books, 3 blue books, 2 white books, 2 green books, 2 pink books, 1 gray book, 1 red book, 1 purple book, and 1 yellow book. And that is it for my stats. I did really wonderfully this month and I had a lot of good books, some of them that I didn't love as much, and a book that I actually DNF'd. But you can't win them all. You win some, you lose some. But let's go ahead and jump into all the books that I read in December. I started the month off with an ebook actually, and I read Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. In the grand scheme of things, I don't really remember this book as well as I think that I would have wanted to. I was really hesitant to go into Sophie Lark's books, seeing as she's a very hit or miss author for a lot of people. Either some people love her or some people don't. And this is definitely not the series that I was recommended to start with, but it's the one that I had in my ebook collection, so I figured I would give it a go. This one follows 2 characters who are on different sides of mob wars. One is Italian and one is Irish, I believe, and they have always disliked each other. So the heroine of the story, I'm not gonna remember their names, the heroine of the story sneaks into the hero's big party that he happens to be throwing for his little sister, and she accidentally kind of on purpose, sets one of the rooms on fire, and during that time she ends up stealing something from his house that is very, very important to him. And because of that, he ends up retaliating and hurting one of the hero's family members, and in order to squash the feud, their parents require them to get married and basically have an alliance between the two mob gangs. Mob gangs, that's a synonym, right? You get what I'm saying. And it's a romance between the two of them. It's kind of like a hate to love, will they, won't they type of romance. And I liked it when I was reading it. It was very intriguing. I really liked some of the sex scenes. I liked the way that their friendship as well as their romantic relationship kind of developed. However, the thing that I love the most about this book is this is a true hate to love. They are literally trying to kill each other in the beginning of this book. Like, strangle each other. And I just love it. I think it's hilarious. I think it worked really well with the story. I liked the writing. It just wasn't a all-out wonderful book for me. I think I ended up giving this one a 4-star. I enjoyed it, but it's not something that I would ever reread. Now for my first 5-star of the month, and that is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Oh my gosh, this was literally so amazing. I have been putting this on TBR after TBR and never getting around to it, and finally, December was the month that I bit the bullet and finally read it, and oh my gosh, I was missing out. Like, this book was so freaking good. This book follows Avery, who is a 17-year-old high schooler, and she kind of lives middle class. Her parents aren't alive. She's being raised by her sister. I think her mom passed away, and then her dad is nowhere to be found. She ends up getting a letter from a very prestigious and well-known family saying that she needs to come to Texas, I believe, to be a part of a reading of a will. And when she gets there, she finds out that she has inherited everything. Pretty much everything. Billions of dollars, estates, cars, a foundation, everything. But she has no idea why. She didn't even know the Hawthorne family until days before when she got the letter. And so she's trying to figure out why this has happened, but also the family who got basically nothing from this will is also trying to figure out why they were disinherited from the will and why this girl that no one seems to know got everything. And it becomes like a game and a puzzle that the main guy, the Hawthorne, I forget what his name is, Tobias Hawthorne, kind of set out this puzzle for them to figure out what went down and why. And it was just so intriguing. I really liked the characters. You have this like love triangle type romance going on, which I'm not mad about. I think that it's working really well for the story, but you have these puzzles that you're trying to like solve and put together and alongside the characters, and I really didn't guess any of the twists. I thought it was really, really fun and intriguing, and I really enjoyed it, and I cannot wait for book 2. I think it's going to be a fantastic sequel, so hopefully I can get to it soon. Then I read the book that I pulled out of my intimidating TBR jar, and that was The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I picked this book up beginning of 2020, and then I got about halfway through, and then I wasn't able to finish because I needed to return the book to the library, and I finally picked it back up again, and I really enjoyed it. I did not enjoy this one as much as the Night Circus. I think that the Night Circus for me was a better reading experience, but I did still really love this book. I gave it a 4.75 on Storygraph and a 4-star on Goodreads, and I really, really enjoyed this book. It is a very interesting and well thought out book about a man named Zachary who is in college, and he's a big reader. He ends up going into the library and picks up a book and starts reading it, only to find out that there is a couple of pages in here that depicts a very important and memorable scene in his life. And then he goes on a journey to try to figure out, like, why the heck is he in this book? What do the rest of the stories mean? What is the Starless Sea? Because it's mentioned in this book several times. And he goes on a journey to figure that out. Along the way, he kind of finds this like found family type group of people, as well as falling in love with a really awesome gentleman that he gets introduced to. And I just thought it was really interesting and intricate. And the thing that I love the most about Erin Morgenstern's writing is she writes things that don't seem to make sense, and then all of a sudden they click and make sense. This book is written in multiple perspectives, telling 3 or 4 different stories at the same time, but everything all of a sudden just goes together, and the very ending, it's like, oh my gosh, I feel like this is a book that I will get more out of and probably love even more upon a reread. And I just really, really enjoyed it. It's 4-star, highly recommend. Erin Morgenstern is one of those authors that if she publishes anything else, I will 100% read the rest of her works because she is a literal genius, and I really enjoyed this one. Then I read the group book for Mary Bookmas, and that was The Accidental Apprentice by Amanda Foody. This is a cute middle grade story about Barclay, who wants to live a normal, easy life as a mushroom farmer, and he doesn't want to be an outcast in his community. However, one day he breaks the most sacred rule, and that is not to go into the forbidden forest, and he ends up doing that to save one of his colleagues and other apprentices, and he ends up on a journey where he is now bounded to a beast, and beasts are like the most forbidden thing in the world that he lives in, everyone knows that they are bad, and actually a beast came years before and killed Barclay's parents, and so he has a huge grudge against beasts. So he goes on a journey to try to figure out how to unbond himself from the beast, and go back to his regular life. And along the way, he meets some really awesome friends and learns about a whole another world of magic. It's called Wilder lore and beast magic, and he gets into some very interesting situations. There's also a magical competition going on in this book, which I really loved. You have a chosen one trope alongside a found family trope with some really interesting and awesome magical aspects to it, which I really, really enjoyed. I just really loved Barclay as a character and the friends that he made, as well as the kind of little bits and pieces of the messages that Amanda Foody put into the story that really meant so much. We were able to have the opportunity to talk with Amanda Foody. If you want to go watch that live show, I will leave it in the description box below. It's on Mel's channel. But we had just such a fun time learning a little bit more about the process of this book and the subsequent sequels of this book that I'm very excited for. So really enjoyed this one. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars and will definitely continue on with the series. Then I finally got around to my reread of Vampire Academy by Rochelle Mead. I started this one probably like 4 or 5 months ago and got about 100 pages in and then put it down because I went to go focus on other books and never got back around to it. I finally picked it back up and read it all the way through. I enjoyed it. I gave it a 3-star. It wasn't the best book I've ever read. It wasn't the best book when I was in high school either. I guess maybe I thought it was, but knowing what I know now and reading the type of books that I read now, it just isn't the most timely or well held up book, but I still enjoyed my reading experience. It was a fast, fun page turner that kept me engaged to the very end. I remember the twists and what the characters go through, but I still enjoyed my reading experience overall. I'm not going to go too much more into this one. It's a reread, so it doesn't need as much screen time as the rest of them. Then I read another ebook, and that is Pestilence by Laura Thalassa. This is the first book in the Four Horsemen series, and this book really took me by surprise. It was not something that I expected it to be, but I really, really enjoyed it. Basically, this follows Pestilence, who is known for bringing among a plague to the world, along with other death and destruction that his other 3 brothers tend to bring when they come trotting along. And Pestilence is back after a few years of silence, and the world is basically in this post-dystopian, post-apocalyptic type world where many people have already died from the resurgence of the Horsemen, and there is one particular character that is set out to try to kill Pestilence so that the rest of the people can survive. And she ends up trying to do the deed, and she tries to kill him, and it doesn't quite work out. You find out that Pestilence cannot die, and Pestilence ends up taking this main character as basically a prisoner, and they ride along throughout the world spreading plague in its wake. But it's a relationship between Pestilence and this female main character, which I cannot remember her name, and I really enjoyed it. It's very dark. It is very gritty. It's not a book for the faint, I don't think. If you are anyway triggered by like plague type sicknesses and very in-depth death scenes, then I don't think that you would enjoy this. But I did really enjoy it. I thought that it was very well done, very well written, and I really liked the romance that happened between the 2 characters. You can definitely see the pull that they had, but also the resistance that each character kind of brought to the table, because they didn't quite want to be in the situation that they were in, and they didn't want to feel the feelings that they had, but you could see their attraction growing as well as their friendship and relationship. And it was just a really enjoyable book all around. Definitely had me sitting at the edge of my seat hoping to, you know, root for the characters in all the right ways, and I really, really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I will definitely continue on with the series. And then we had my second and final reread of the month, and that is Fake by Tate James. You guys already know. I loved it. It was amazing. 5 out of 5 stars. Do I really have to go into this? Probably not, but if this is the first time you're watching one of my videos, this is the 3rd book in the Madison Kate series by Tate James. Madison Kate series is a reverse harem following 1 female and 3 other guys, and you follow Madison Kate at the beginning of the story where she's going to a fight called Riot Night, and when she gets there, all hell breaks loose. People are ending up dead, and she is running for her life. She ends up getting saved by 3 mysterious men who end up framing her for the crimes that happened at Riot Night. And she spends a little time in jail. She goes to Cambodia for a year, and when she comes back, she's hell-bent on revenge. And lo and behold, she ends up going home to find the 3 men that she knows framed her for the situation live in her house. And it's a close quarters, reverse harem, hate to love series that I love so much. This is the 3rd book. A lot has changed from the plot of book 1, but I love the series so much. They have a special place in my heart. Cody Steele and Archer are some of my favorite men that I've ever read about, and Madison Kate is hands down in my top 10 favorite female characters. Like, I just love her so much. So not gonna gush about this one anymore because I could if I wanted to, but really enjoyed it and cannot wait to reread the final book in the series. Up next, I read One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus, and I just don't know about this one. I rated it a 4-star, but the more and more that I think about it, I am feeling it's more of a 3-star read. So it's definitely something that I would probably go and change on Goodreads after this. But I just didn't love the ending. The book itself, the first 75% of the book was fantastic, and I was on the edge of my seat. I was very intrigued. I was turning the pages quicker than I could freaking read the words, but then I got to the end and I realized I was just so freaking disappointed with the way that Karen M. McManus wrote the ending of this book. You basically have these group of kids that go to detention, and they all are in detention for the same reason, but they all feel like they're innocent in the reason that they're there. And then all of a sudden, during detention, one of the kids that is there drinks a cup of water and then subsequently has an allergy attack, and dies. And these kids are being blamed for his death. There are a lot of interesting bits and pieces and the reasons that they were there that lead to the police believing that one of the people killed them. And it's a very interesting storyline, and I really enjoyed the bouncing between the multiple perspectives and the feeling of any one of them could have done it. But when you get to the end and you figure out who did it, it just didn't seem satisfying, and for me it felt like a cop-out. And I just didn't really enjoy the ending of this, which really ruined my entire experience with the book. So my friend Clint actually told me that the TV show did the ending a little bit better, so I might eventually go back and rewatch the TV show, or not rewatch it, but watch the TV show. But I need a little bit of separation from this book because every time I think about it, it honestly makes me angry. Then I read 3 little audiobook novellas. The first one was absolutely terrible. It was Rock Hard by LJ Shen. It follows a woman that works in a hotel, and she ends up bringing room service up to this rock star that she's had a crush on for forever, and he is very terrible and disgusting and grimy and gross, and they end up in bed together, which then leads from lust to automatic love and must spend every day with each other, and then they get married, and it's fantastic. It wasn't fantastic, it was really fucking bad, and it's probably one of the worst books I've ever read, so I don't want to talk about it anymore. I gave it a 1 star. Then we have Eternal Sunshine by LJ Shen. I'm a glutton for punishment, and I read 2 LJ Shen audiobooks back to back. I mean, literally stopped one and literally picked up the next one, and this one was much, much better. This one is called Eternal Sunshine. I give this one a 4 star. It is a friends to lovers, brother's best friend romance. And the hero and heroine are obviously, it starts off when they're much younger. One of them is in high school, the other one has just graduated high school, going to college, and they're really close to each other, even though they're trying to keep a separation between romantic and friendly relationships. But they always kind of stop themselves because obviously the brother best friend situation kind of put a damper in their experience, and something happens between the two of them that kind of makes the woman quite upset, and she leaves the house never to see this guy again for the next 10 years or something like that, and they meet back up after he's like a really famous actor and she's doing her own thing. She just had a really bad breakup after her boyfriend cheated on her, and he ends up offering her a place to stay, and it's their relationship together. It was really short, so I won't talk too much more about the synopsis of it, but I enjoyed it. I thought that it was a very organic friends to lovers relationship, as organic as it can be in a 1-hour audiobook. So take that as you will. I enjoyed it. 4 out of 5 stars. I'm not sure I'm going to read LJ Shen again. I've heard quite some quite controversial things about her writing, and after reading these 2 books, I just don't think that she's an author that I need to devote my time and attention to. Then another 1-hour audiobook that I listened to was Say Yes by Elle Kennedy. This is the author of the Briar U and Off Campus series, and I really enjoy her as a writer. So this one follows a girl who is going to her best friend's wedding. She's the maid of honor, and when she's at the hotel hanging out before the festivities begin, she is swiping on a dating website and finds a guy that's in her area that is down to hook up, and she thinks it's going to be a one-night stand to let some steam off, and she's fine with that. She wakes up the next morning, leaves the bed, never to see him again. However, she finds out that the person that she slept with looks a lot like the groom, and it's a relationship that goes on between them. It was very interesting. I can say that I called the twist, if you want to call it a twist, as soon as I read the synopsis, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I gave it a 5 stars. Wow. I gave it a 5 stars. I think I gave it 5 stars just because it was so fun. Like, I laughed. I felt for the characters. I thought it was an easy read, so it was an easy 5 stars for me, and I really enjoy Elle Kennedy, so that's no surprise, honestly. I'm surprised now that I gave it a 5 stars, but I'm not surprised that in the moment I gave it 5 stars, you know what I mean? Then I read the biggest book of the month and the biggest book of the year, and that is Winter by Marissa Meyer, clocking in at over 800 pages. Holy shit. This book was really good. It's the conclusion of the Lunar Chronicle series, at least the original series. There is another like short story collection and 2 graphic novels that I will read at some point, but the original series has now come to an end. Each book follows a different character as a like fairy tale retelling. So the first one is Cinderella, the second one is Little Red Riding Hood, the third one is Rapunzel, and then this one is Snow White. And I really enjoyed this conclusion to the series. I thought that it was really well done. I kind of knew the ending of this book because it is a fairy tale retelling and you kind of assume that they're going to get there happily ever after. But when I tell you that I was anxious on the edge of my seat and stressing out reading this book the entire way through, make it make sense, because I was literally so stressed knowing that they were gonna get their good happy ending. And I really enjoyed it. I thought that it was really well done. I like the steps that Marissa Meyer took to give this some stakes but also make it feel hopeful, and I loved every character in here. I will say the thing that surprised me the most about reading this book is I found that I really enjoy Wolf and Scarlet as characters as I read this book, which I didn't love them in all the rest of the books in the series, so the fact that I loved them so much at the end made it feel satisfying. And my 2 favorite characters, Cress and Thorn, are still my favorite. I love them so much. I want everything good for them, and I'm very excited that I finished the series, but I'm sad to say goodbye to these characters. Then I read a fantastic romance that I'm going to be thinking about for ages, and that is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. Everyone is raving about this one. Everyone is talking about it, and I think it's for good reason. I thought that this book was just so damn cute and just so satisfying. Like, you know when you read a romance and you get to the end and you're like, dang, like that just is everything that I needed. And this is it. This one follows Olive, who is a PhD student, and Adam. I'm never good at names, but Olive and Adam, PhD student, and Adam is a teacher at this in the science department of this college. Olive is trying to convince her best friend that she is dating somebody else so that she could be with who she really wants to be, and that is somebody that Olive had dated in the past. And she's trying to convince her friend, like, go for it, you're not breaking girl code, go date him, I want you to be happy. So she decides to kiss the very first person that she sees, and of course it's none other than Mr. Grumpy, Adam, and they create a fake dating relationship from there that turns obviously into a real relationship, and I loved it so much. I thought it was so cute. I loved the kind of talk about STEM and women in STEM, but it also really talked about sexual assault as well in a really enlightening and formative way, and I just really enjoyed it. I thought that it was a well-balanced romance with a little bit more of some hard-hitting topics. I enjoyed the characters. I liked the growth they went through. I just enjoyed the book from start to finish. I was smiling, I was laughing, I was swooning. It was just so freaking great, and I'm so glad that I read it. Obviously, a 5 out of 5 stars for me. Then my one and only DNF for the month, and that is chosen by PC Cast and Kristen Cast, and usually I do not write my DNFs, but oh boy, was this bad. I gave it a 1 star. I thought it was terrible. I was rereading this book as a part of my rereading of my favorite childhood series, and I read the first and second book knowing that there was some very problematic elements to these books, but I had pushed through with the hopes that it would get better. And as I got to the third book and it was still not getting better, like I kid you not, there was already problematic sentences and phrases in the first 2 to 10 pages. Like, I just was so overly livid and upset about the things that were being said. It was very homophobic, very fatphobic, very slut-shamey, and I wasn't feeling it. I gave it like 50-ish pages, and I was like, you know what? I don't need to read it. I don't need to waste my time reading books that I am obviously not enjoying. So I DNF'd it. I am unhauling the rest of the series, which is great because it cleared up like 8 books for me off my shelves, so I will take it. Then I read my last 2 ebooks of the month, and oh my god! If you guys didn't watch my favorite books of the year list, this last book in the series ended up as my #1 book of 2021. Holy crap. But the first book is Surrender by Amy Dawes, and the second one is Dominate. Basically, this follows, I'm not going to remember her name, but I can remember his name. His name is Gareth. Don't ask me why I remember that. But Gareth is a very well-known football player, and he's very well-known, but in his life, he exudes control. He is the person that everyone goes to when they have a problem and they need fixing, and his life is based off of how well he can control every aspect of his life, and he's really looking to give up some of that control in his life. Whereas the main character, why can't I remember her name? Sloane? I'm pretty sure her name is Sloane. I have to look. Oh my god, I got it right. Her name is Sloane. So Sloane is going through a very, very messy divorce and dealing with a custody battle of her child, and she feels like she has zero control in her life. And she is a personal stylist who works for Gareth as his personal stylist, and basically one night, for a late night drop-off call for work, they end up getting into a very interesting sexual relationship where he lets go of all control and surrenders to her, and she takes control, and it's just a fantastic story that kind of really blossoms from there. You have a little girl who had previously suffered from cancer, and you're kind of dealing with the after effects of that. Obviously, you have this very messy divorce that Sloane is going through, but you also see Gareth's life, and you see the walls that he builds up and the reason why he does it, and the behind the scenes of that. His family is very messy with a lot of issues and a lot of grief going on in their family, and they're really struggling to figure out a way past some of the issues that they've had in their past. And the two of them together just work so well together. You have this very awesome and incredible and intense relationship that is just so wonderful to see. I was literally bawling, crying, laughing, everything from emotions from one end of the spectrum to the other during this reading experience. I read both of the books back to back, and I love them so much. They have a special place in my heart, and I'm so excited to get physical copies and finally reread these. And obviously, if you didn't guess, I gave them both high ratings. I gave Surrender a 4-star, and I gave Dominate a 5-star. Some more back-to-back 5 stars. We have Heartsong by TJ Klune. This is the 3rd book in the Green Creek series, and as you guys know, I love this series. If you've been following my channel for the last 3 or so months, this has ended up in my favorites list every time, and I love the series so much. It follows gay werewolves. I'm not going to explain the synopsis of this, just know that I loved it. This book especially definitely is a big mindfuck, makes you ask a lot of questions, trying to figure out what the hell happened, because this one takes a little bit of a time jump, and it's just fantastic. It is also the book that I read this month that had a romantic and asexual rep as well, and I just really love it. It's very queer, has so much representation. I love this book series so much, and with that I also read Fearlsong and Lovesong Part 2. They are the small little novellas that come in between the 3rd and the 4th book in this series. Love them, all 5 out of 5 stars, so fantastic. I'm sad to be reading the last book in the series, but I'm excited to see how TJ Klune ends out the series for sure. Then I read Crazy Stupid Bromance by Lisa K. Adams. This is the 3rd book in the Bromance Book Club series. I really enjoyed this book. This one follows Noah, who is the hacktivist, and Alexis, who you meet in book 2. And Alexis is going through some hard stuff in her life as she's recovering from a sexual assault attempt, and she's really had a kind of growth to recovery, and along that time, Noah and her had become best friends, and it's a friends to lovers romance between the two of them that I just really freaking enjoyed. I love the series as a whole, and I think they are such fun books to read. The 1st book in the series follows Gavin, is that his name, and Thea, and their marriage is on the rocks. They are literally a hair's breadth away from divorce, and he's really trying to fix their marriage after finding out that she faked the big O for most of their marriage. And he ends up joining the Bromance Book Club, where they come together and read romance books to help them figure out how to succeed in their relationships. And the same is for Noah. He ends up joining the Bromance Book Club with the intent of helping him in his relationship with Alexis and getting out of the friend zone. And I just thought this was such a cute friends to lovers romance. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I think that it's such a cute romance. I gave this one a 4-star, not a 5-star, but I still really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun, laughed my butt off per usual, and I'm so excited to read the 4th book. And there has been announced that a Christmas version of these books is coming out next year, so hopefully I can get to that one as well and love it. Then I read a few more audiobooks. And the first one, well, this one was mixed media, but I read the ebook as well, and that was Lady of Rooksgrave Manor by Catherine Moon. This was a reverse harem book that I thought was okay. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It's a very interesting reverse harem. It is very supernatural. You follow a woman who has an addiction to sex, and she ends up going to a kind of like a escort house where different magical beings will come to get with these women and hopefully find companionship. And she ends up having a relationship with 5 or 6 men. You have Booker, Eamon, I'm not going to remember, Ezra, August. There's one more guy, I believe, that she ends up having a relationship with. You have a vampire, a sphinx, a man made of stone. Like, there's a lot going on in this series, and I just thought that it was okay. It didn't quite meet the mark, and there is a lot of sex in this book, and usually I'm all down for that, but I felt like it was almost overdone to the point where it's like every time you read a chapter, like they were having sex in a new and interesting way. And although some of the scenes were very hot, I feel like it definitely could have been toned down. It had a little bit more plot to it to make it feel satisfying. And don't get me wrong, I love a book that has no plot and only sex. I just felt like this one wasn't done as well as I would have wanted. So that's unfortunate, but I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. I don't think I will continue on with the series because they are like companion novels that follow different characters, and I I'm not ready to learn a whole new set of characters for this world. I think I'm done. Then I read a Christmas book called Merry Inkmas by Talia Hibbert. This was a book that I found a little bit disappointing, unfortunately. This one follows a cafe worker and a mysterious guy that ends up coming into her shop almost every day to talk to her because he has this big crush on her. He ends up being a very burly, broody tattoo artist, and she ends up losing her job, and he offers her a job to work as a receptionist at the tattoo shop, and they end up having a relationship from there. They are both going through some stuff in their own personal life that they are trying to work through. However, the male main character I just felt was a little bit too broody and had too many issues that didn't get fully resolved in the end of this book, and it just didn't feel as satisfying as I would have wanted. The book should have been a little bit longer to get a little bit more page time out of these characters to make it feel like all the things I needed to do came full circle, and that just didn't happen with this book. So that is unfortunate. I did like it. I gave it a 3-star, but it just wasn't my favorite of the Talia Hibbert books that I've read. Seeing as I've given all the rest of her books 5 stars, it was a little bit of a disappointment for me. The last and final book that I read in 2021 was To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo, and unfortunately we did not end off on a very high note. This one was an average 3-star book for me. This is a Little Mermaid retelling that follows a siren who is a bloody, very cruel murderer. She is known for murdering princes and taking their hearts, and each heart that she takes, she gets more power. And then you follow the prince, who is a siren killer. Somehow the siren Lyra ends up on Elian's ship that he captains when he's on a journey to kill some sirens, and she's a siren living now in a human's body, and they end up having a romance and falling in love. And I just think that for me, because this was a very classic spin on the Little Mermaid tale, I knew what the ending was going to be, so the stakes weren't there for me, so I didn't have enough emotional attachment to what was going on and these characters to make it feel satisfying. And that was just the main reason why it wasn't as exciting as I wanted it to be. I knew where the story was going. I feel like this is an easy read if you want something a little bit different than the standard, like, really nice mermaid and prince story, but it just wasn't as amazing as I thought it was going to be. So I didn't love it, but I'm glad that I read it. That is the last and final book that we're going to talk about today, and very quickly I will just share my favorite book and my favorite quote of the month. My favorite book of the month was definitely Dominate by Amy Dawes. I love that book so much. Obviously I gushed about it for quite a while, really enjoyed it, but my favorite quote of the month is actually from The Love Hypothesis, and this might be a weird quote for some of you guys, but it happens during the sex scene between Olive and Adam, and he says to her, "Pay attention, sweetheart." And y'all, when I read that line, I was swooning, I was sweating, I wanted to become Olive in that moment, and it was just everything that I needed and more. I still think about that line, and still to this day, every time I think about it, I swoon. It's just so friggin' good. But that is it. That is all that I wanted to share with you guys today in this wrap up. It's another long one. I apologize. I really should be doing these mid-month wrap-ups because I just read so many books, but hopefully you made it to the end. If you did, leave a book stack emoji. Lots of book stacks going on today. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to give it a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave. And of course, leave any comments, questions, and suggestions in the comment section below. And I will see you in the next video. Bye. Baby, turn it down like a sweet and ready. Go slow, keep it nice and steady.